Hey, what up, Wolverine Nation? We are on the doorstep of the 2026 college football season. A lot of changes at the big house. The Sharon Moore era is gone. And so, to paraphrase Pete Townsend, meet the new boss, not the same as the old boss. So we'll cover a new offense, a revamped defense, and a schedule that is not doing us any favors. This is our 2026 Wolverines edition of the Lowdown on Motown Sports.
This is the Lowdown on Motown Sports Podcast, the Michigan Wolverine football edition, with Junko Bodie, Blue Dane Williams, and your host, Bob Danielli. We take a deep dive into Michigan football with insight into the games, the players, the coaches, and we manage to have a little fun. Basically, it's three lifelong buddies hanging out talking Wolverine football. So whether you're in Ann Arbor or anywhere else in the world, if you bleed maize and blue, you're in the right place. So let's get to it.
All right, welcome to a new season of Michigan football. Along with Sharon Moore, most of last year's assistant coaches are gone. Some key players to last year's unit are gone. It's a big-time change for Michigan football, so enter Kyle Whittingham, a coaching legend who left Utah to now lead the Michigan program. He is not the only new face, a new OC in Jason Beck, a new DC in BYU's Jay Hill. And for those of you clamoring for change, you aren't going to find any more change than this anywhere in the country. Will Michigan have an explosive offense, or will their defense be the straw that stirs this year's drink? Can they make the CFP playoff? Maybe, with the most brutal schedule in the country. It's time to talk football. And of course, if you are into Michigan football, please do us a solid, like and subscribe wherever you are listening. Okay, well, last season, Michigan had a schedule that was built to qualify for the CFP. They couldn't get it done. Poor quarterback play, drop passes, poor offensive line play, injuries, and a defense that had a couple of flat performances in key games led to a 9-4 record. With all that going on, one might wonder how they did that well. But now it's a new season, and what better way to start off the year than to introduce my buddies? First of all, Junko Bodie. Hey, buddy.
Hey, Bob.
And as always, Blue Dane Williams. We're going to talk about this year's version of the team. So, guys, there's so much to talk about. There's only an hour to get it done. It seems like we've already been talking about an hour. So anyway, let's focus on three elements of Michigan football: the offense, the defense, and the schedule. So because we all know Michigan has a ton of talent, we know that these coaches and coordinators come highly touted. But the million-dollar question is this group, can they put it all together against some other really talented teams? Let's start with the offense. Junko. Offensive coach Jason Beck follows Kyle Whittingham over from Utah. That's got to be a good thing, right? Give us some thoughts on Beck, his past offense, and how things will be different in the Big Ten compared to what he was facing at Utah. What should these Michigan fans expect, Junko?
You know, that's a good question, Bob. I think we're all wondering the answer to that one, right? You know, I know Jason Beck is really known for some different things. Mainly the power spread, I think, is really his trademark offense. You know, we had Rich Rodriguez who had the spread, right? We had Jim Harbaugh who played the pro style. We had Brady Hoke who played no style. and now we got the power spread here with Jason Beck. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think the key to it for me when I'm looking at this offense this year is, one, they hire Whittingham, he brings in Beck, and Michigan is going to be able to do what they've done in the past. They're going to be able to run the football. But Jason Beck says that he wants to throw it also. And so the question I think we all have is, how effectively is that piece going to be? I know we got a sophomore quarterback in Bryce Underwood who had a very mixed bag freshman season. And I think we've upgraded the wide receiver position to some degree. The question really is now, are they going to be able to execute at the level that Beck was able to get his offense at Utah to execute at last year? What did they average last year? 41 points a game, Dane? I mean, something like that?
Yeah, 41 a game.
Yeah. And so I think what we all want to know is that something that we can replicate at Michigan? What do you think, Dane?
Yeah. And actually it was 43.6
There you
points
go.
per game. So yeah, you're really, really close there. Yeah, I think so. I was looking at some statistics because, you know, as a scientist, I love statistics, right? But it's some interesting statistics. So Utah last year, if you look at their rush pass percentage, the breakdown, it was really 60-40. And guess what the Michigan breakdown was last year? 60-40. So, if it's the percentage of rush to pass is basically the same. So I don't think we're going to see a whole big difference this year. Hopefully the passing game is a little more effective. There aren't as many drop passes. There were 28 drop passes last year. If they had caught those passes, actually Bryce's completion percentage would have been 68 rather than 60. So from that standpoint, it's good. But they had many more touchdowns than we had. Utah did 68 versus 44 TDs. So, that's encouraging to see that coming our way. Another big thing I saw is, you look at third down, fourth down efficiency. Utah last year was 53% on third down and 64% on fourth down. Michigan was 43 and 38 respectively. So there was a big difference in third down and fourth down efficiency. Now, you can talk about the caliber of teams they were playing and the rest of that. But again, more encouraging news. The biggest thing I saw was that Devin Dampier at Utah last year, he had 146 rush attempts for 835 yards. He was
800.
835 yards. Almost their leading rusher, right? 70 yards per game is what he averaged. Bryce, 88 attempts for 392 and 30 yards per game. So out of all of that, I have some conclusions / expectations. One, I think we'll see a 60 to 70% run versus 40 to 30% pass ratio. We'll see more designed runs by Bryce. And then third and fourth down efficiency should improve. And I think we're going to have better red zone scoring efficiency also. That was another thing I failed to mention is Utah was 90% in scoring efficiency in the red zone, and we were like 78%. So if all that holds true, I think we're going to definitely see improvement in the offense this year.
Well, let me ask you, Dane, does the age and the inexperience of Jason Beck give you pause?
No, I don't think so. Not at all. No.
Okay.
I like his style of play, and I think they're going to run. We've got a great dual running backs. So I'm excited to see the run game. A little hesitant on the pass game still. And we'll get to that later, I know. But yeah, not really no. How about you?
Yeah, well, it does give me pause. And the reason it gives me pause is that I know there's always a curse to youth, especially when it comes to play calling, because, sometimes you outsmart yourself. That's kind of how I feel about Jason Beck, is that I've watched some of his games, and there were times where he made play calls that didn't need to be made, right? And we saw some of that with Sharon Moore and his group when they were at Michigan as well. And he's had a couple more seasons under his belt, so as he's getting more cured, so to speak, I think he's going to kind of grow out of that. But I still wonder, about the youthful aspect of it. I think it's both a blessing and a curse. He's very innovative, he's very dynamic on one hand, but maybe sometimes on the other hand, he takes more risks than he needs to. So
what do you mean by calling plays that didn't need to be made? What do you mean?
Like when you need 1 yard and you throw the bomb on fourth down. You know what I mean? Okay. Stuff like that. I mean, he made some of those play calls last year, or you're moving the ball down the field and all of a sudden you pull out this reverse, you lose 10 yards and the drive's over. Plays that didn't need to be made for whatever reason. You stick with what's working. And I did hear him say in a recent press conference that he's not afraid to stay with what's working. He's going to make people adjust to them. And I hope that's true. And I guess we'll find that out probably in the second game of the year when Oklahoma rolls into town.
Yeah. It's a big game.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. And this might be a real remedial question, but that's my expertise here. Should there be a concern from going to one conference to another, where, maybe not so much Whittingham because he's seen it all, he's been doing it for 22 years, but like for the assistants going from, the conference that Utah was in, going into, or BYU, into the Big Ten? Is that a concern?
I'll let you
Junko?
start, Dane. Oh, okay. I'll start.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a concern, but the question, and it's funny. I just happened to hear Ryan Van Bergen, a former Michigan player, talking about when he played Utah back in the day, and he said they were the toughest team that they had played physically. And I think when you worry about teams coming into the Big Ten, you're worried about the physical aspect of it. And my take on that is that Kyle Whittingham played Big Ten football in a non-Big Ten conference, anti-Big Ten conference, if you want, because you got the Air 12, as they used to call them, right? Versus the Big Ten, which was a running conference. I think it's a less of an adjustment from where these guys came from than it would be if they had come from, Stanford or Cal or something like that.
Okay. Dane, feel the same way?
Yeah, Big Ten is certainly different, but I fully believe that Kyle Whittingham is fully aware of that. He's fully aware of how physical they're going to have to be, and that was a thing. The comment he made right a couple of times in his interviews is that they were surprised from a strength and conditioning standpoint. When they got there, they couldn't bench press what he expected them to bench press, so they got him going on it, right? And they were able, all except for a handful, were able to do their personal best. So he understands it, I think, which is a good thing. So I'm not too concerned about that. I think he really understands the Big Ten.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's touch a little bit more on the offense, right? We had a little offensive attrition after Moore left. Samaj Morgan left, so did Jasper Parker. Our tight end Klein went into the NFL draft. But overall, we retained our players, including most of an all-young offensive line. Now, Dane, who do you see as the starters on this team, and which player besides Bryce will have the biggest impact in your opinion?
Yeah, I wish him good luck, but I was really sad to see Samaj go,
You're a liar. You're such a liar.
He hurt us a few times last year. He made some great catches, but boy, on the punt returns and that, so really hurt us. Well, of course. I mean, I don't even know if we need to talk about running back. Of course, Marshall and Hyder are going to be there, right? And then Kudzall, I think, will be the back. We'll see all three. I'm sure.
We're gonna see them all.
Different formations, yeah. And then wide receiver, Marsh. Everything I'm hearing out of training camp, Marsh is still, the one. J.J. Buchanan is probably 2, and probably Jamie French is 3. However, I've been hearing some really good things about Travis Johnson, the true freshman. Some really, really good things there. So then you've got Salisi Moa out there. So I think the 3 will be probably French, Buchanan, Marsh, and we'll see what happens. But Travis Johnson may sneak in there. You've got others. You got Goodwin, Kendrick Bell, Tamar Broder too. You're still hearing about, and so I think we're pretty well stacked at the wide receiver position. Can we get on the ball? Is the thing. Tight end, Zach Marshall, Hanson back up mainly there. You got Hoffman who's coming back, so that's good. Offensive line. This is interesting. Well, left tackle, I see Frazier. Left guard, Link. Center, Guarnera, right guard, Norton, and right tackle, Sprague. I hear left tackle, there's still a battle going on with Bavalola and Frazier. So, and then maybe Phobia at right guard, right, with Norton. But those who I think our starters are going to be. Are we to biggest impact player, or are we just talking about starters at this point?
Who do you think is going to be a big impact? Let Junko handle that one then.
Well, I think J.J. Buchanan, as Dane mentioned, is going to be a high impact player, and not because he's super fast, but because he's big, right? Last season, he averaged 16.4 yards per catch. That's a bigger number than anybody on the Michigan roster last season, and he was their tight end. So this year he's coming to play at Michigan as a wide receiver, which is going to be great for 2 things. One, it's going to be great for the running game to have that big body out there blocking on the edge. And the other thing, too, is that when they want to squeeze down, they need that yard. He's going to be on the line blocking a safety or a defensive back, so that's great. And I love the fact that Dane mentioned Babalola, too, because I don't think he's going to win the starting job at left tackle, but I do think he's going to be the rhino, which is the 6th offensive lineman in Jason Beck's scheme. And I think we're going to do a lot of Rhino stuff this year. So I think he's going to get a lot of snaps. You mentioned Zach Marshall. I think he's going to be an important element. Tight ends are always very important in the Utah offense. So I think Zach and Hansen, for that matter, are both going to get a lot of catches. And we don't really need to mention the backs, but I do think that Cudzall is going to have a bigger role than most people expect. My guess is that he could maybe even have the second most carries on the team. That could happen.
I thought it was pretty impressive in his role.
He was a beast, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the people who are discounting Cudzall are just not paying attention. He's the short yardage back that they need. They're going to see him a lot on 3rd and 4th down. And not only does he have great size and power at the point of attack, but he's got great vision. He finds the holes, and when he gets there, man, he accelerates through them, and he's hard to tackle. So that's the kind of guy you want on short yardage situations. I think it's a perfect fit for that role.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree.
Well, let's talk reserves then. Of course, depth is so important over a long season like this. So, Dane, why don't you mention a couple of reserves that could have a big impact on this season?
Well, certainly a tight end. It could be Hansen. And I think Hansen and Marshall will probably see a lot of playing time. It could be, certainly some play calls with the, dual tight end. So I see Hansen coming in and being one of those key backups. Celeste Moa, I think really promising receiver. And I think we'll see some of him. We're going to see many of the receivers out there. So, and then Travis Johnson, just hearing really good things about him. He'll be a backup, I think, starting. He probably would start. But again, I think with the other receivers, we're going to see a good rotation out there. What do you think, Junko?
Well, I think Celeste Moa is going to be a starter. I think he's going to start in the slot. That's my take on that. And Travis Johnson, I think, is a great big body package. He's 6'4", right? You put him out there with JJ, and there's another receiver they have. How tall is Jamie French? Is he 6'3" or 6'4"?
Yeah, so, he's up there. Yeah.
So if you go to a big package in the end zone where you're going to have the potential to pass or run, you bring in those big body receivers. They can block the run, and they can catch the lob passes against smaller defensive backs in that package. Love that. I love the thought of that being able to happen. I think that's something that Sharon Moore always wanted, but he had these little shrimpy receivers like Morgan and the guy who went to Northwestern or what Moore. Yeah, right. Those guys.
Yeah.
And speaking of receivers, I think Channing Goodwin's going to play a bigger role than most people think.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
He had some drops last year, but overall he played pretty well. And he was probably their best blocking wide receiver last season. So I think that he's going to play as well. The other thing too, Dane mentioned the offensive line and who he thought the starters might be. I think Ofobi's going to start at right guard, but every season it seems like there's at least one injury along that offensive line. So I think you're going to see either Norden or Avery Gash have some significant playing time this season. Could play very big roles if Michigan, wins that second game at Oklahoma and gets into the meat of the schedule with a pretty good record. So we'll see.
All right. Hey, let's talk real quickly about the elephant in the room, the sophomore elephant in the room. That would be Bryce Underwood. He will probably go as Michigan goes, or Michigan will go as Bryce Underwood goes. First, do you expect him to make a sophomore leap? And what do you think Beck will do to help him progress? I'll go with Dane first. What can you say about that?
Well, I think there are some very good reasons why Underwood will be better. He had his freshman experience, so it's coming into his second year. He's got a dedicated quarterback coach now. Overall, the coaching staff, in my opinion, is just much better. There's a strong run attack, so that's going to open up, I think, the passing lanes for him. And then they got a better, more experienced O-line from last year. So I think that's the reason why he'll do better. Reasons why he could falter. His decision-making, if it's not any better and he's holding on to the ball for too long, trying to force it into some triple coverage sometimes. If it's bad decision-making, he will falter. And then that rifle arm of his, he's got to figure out the touch. He's got to be able to just get it over the defender's head and into the arms of the receiver without, the rifle ball at all times. So we've all heard the sophomore slump, right? Hopefully he's going to avoid the sophomore slump. And I looked at some statistics, which will surprise you. But you could take quarterbacks back to 2020 that have attempted at least 100 passes as a freshman, and then he attempted at least 100 passes as a sophomore. Of the 13, 4 improved, 4 stayed the same, about the same, and 5 regressed. So statistically speaking, as a sophomore, you have a 62% chance of being the same or better. So running with all of that, I think Underwood's definitely going to be better.
Everything but the pocket protector from that nerd right there. Junko.
And not only is he a nerd, but he skewed the facts to his narrative, right?
Oh,
if you take
okay.
those 4 in the middle and you do the opposite, you can say the same thing to the negative.
What do you say?
Oh, wow. All right.
I don't know. I've totally confused myself.
Anyway, I'll let the people out there, you guys figure out what he did wrong there, and you can put it in the comments. That'll be worth it. Hey, so Bryce Underwood. I think Michigan goes as he goes this year. I'll say that right out of the chute. I think that he's the whole key to their season. And if I hear one more person say he's only 19, I'm going to flip out. It's I don't care how old he is. At this point, he's the quarterback at Michigan, and he has to hold himself to a certain standard. His age has very little to do with it. And when I look at where we're headed this year, and I look at what Utah ran last year, Devin Dampier was a great runner. He's a great runner. They brought him in because he was a great runner. They felt like anything they got from him from the passing game was a bonus. And I think Bryce is a much better passer. And Bryce is still a very good runner. So from my perspective, using Dane's earlier accurate stats, if Michigan can stay at 60-40 like they did last year, and Bryce can raise his completions percentage up, what was it last year, Dane? Like
60% basically.
Yeah, if he can get it up to 65, 66, 67%, and maybe connect on a couple of those deep balls, it could be a special season. And what I like is that Michigan has an offensive line that's going to be able to move people off the ball. And that's going to help Bryce in the passing game. They're going to be better this year on offense, in my opinion, in every phase of the game. And this is the first time since 2023 that I could say that. So I'm bullish on Bryce. I think Bryce is going to be just fine.
Well, I think consistency is the issue. Dane, quick percentage calculation here. He had 11 touchdown passes to 9 interceptions. He ran for 392 yards and 6 touchdowns. So 6 rushing touchdowns as opposed to 11 passing touchdowns.
Yeah.
Is that 60-40 roughly?
Yeah.
I mean, so it just, I mean, your calculation, your assessment is not that far off. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not as critical as Junko of your stats.
Did you do all that in your head? Because that's pretty good.
Yeah, thank you. No, I didn't, but yeah.
It sounds like you did it in your head. Here's
Hey,
the other
I do
thing.
some
Yeah,
research.
right.
Give me a break, okay?
Here's the other thing, too, that I want to mention about Bryce, and I think that this is important, is that Dampier last year had a completion percentage of 63.5. He had 24 total. He accounted for 24 total touchdowns and 835 yards and 10 rushing touchdowns. If Bryce just matches what he did, right? Yeah, Michigan wins 10 games.
I like it.
I mean, if he matches what Dampier did, they win 10.
All right, let's talk defense. You guys ready for that? Huh? Jay Hill comes in with a reputation regarded as one of the brightest defensive minds in college football, but BYU played at a lower level of competition that he'll face in the Big Ten. We touched on that before. Some folks think that he is more finesse than a physical style of coach, and we know that Big Ten is more physical. So how will that bode for a Michigan defense that is going to face some very physical offensive teams this season? Junko, lead us off with that.
Well, I got to admit, I'm wondering myself how Hill is going to adjust to physical defenses. I think this is a different conference. The Big Ten's different than every other conference out there. The SEC's close, but even they are more pass-oriented than the Big Ten. Jay Hill was a standout defensive back and actually played for Whittingham at one point in his career. And he was also a very successful college coach at Weber State. I don't know if you guys knew that. I think he led them to like 4 or 5 or 6 conference titles as a head coach. And I was reading an interview about him the other day, and he said that being the head coach has made him a better assistant coach because he understands what his role is better now, and that he's been there and he knows what that's like when you don't have full confidence in one of your assistants. So I think from that aspect that he's a big upgrade to a lot of the other guys that they could have hired at that position. He had 31 takeaways. His defense had 31 takeaways in 2024. How many did Michigan have last year? What was it?
Good question.
7?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. 7, 8. I mean, can you imagine if we'd have had 31 takeaways last season? And by the way, when I look at last season, I think to myself, boy, did we blow it. We had that easy schedule and we only won 9 games. Everybody's talking about, Sharon wasn't that bad. He still won 9 games. We had a terrible schedule. This year is a whole different deal. And so to have 2 assistants come in with a brand new head coach and all that new coaching staff to come into this schedule, to me, they better be good on defense. Let's put it that way. There's something to be said when you're about familiarity after transition year. And I think the good coach against Hill for how many years now at BYU. So I say those are good things, but this is a different conference. Last year, I was worried about the offense, not worried about the defense. This year, I'm not worried about the offense. I'm worried about the defense.
Dane, how do you see it?
Well, if there's anything that he changes, and seems like over many, many years of watching Michigan football, is the defense always comes out slow, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who they're playing. It seems like that team can march down the field, get a lot of yards. Maybe they'll stop them. Maybe not. Maybe they go down and and they score either a field goal or touchdown. They always seem to start slow. Can we please get a team off the field and a 3-and-out on the first set of downs?
No, that'd be boring TV, Dane.
Boring TV, yeah. And no doubt, I think they're going to be physical up front. I mean, Trey Pierce, I'm hearing really good things about it. I'm really excited to see the edge rushers this year. John Henry Daly and probably Dominic Nichols or Cameron Brandt, but also, hey, Carter Meadows, man, that true freshman. We'd probably see him out there too. So I'm really excited to see that front line play in the edge. How much pressure can they get on that quarterback? Can they stop the run before it gets to the next level? Right? And we saw a lot of that last year. It seemed like running backs are always getting to the next level as linebackers and secondary trying to tackle these running backs. So I expect that they've looked at film. I expect that to be tightened up. So I'm not maybe as worried about the defense as Junko is. I mean, there's some things we'll probably talk about, especially the linebackers, which, that's probably the big weakness of the secondary.
Well, I'd like to see in the second half that they become more stout. It just seemed like once we got to the second half, they were giving up more yards than they were in the first. So maybe a little attention to conditioning, possibly. I don't know. I'm excited to see Daly. He's a transfer from Utah, right? He's correct. A Whittingham. That's cool. So now, regarding the starters, unlike the offense that didn't lose much when Moore left, the defense lost a ton of people that were contributors last season. So despite those losses, you look at the lineup and the cupboard feels pretty full on defensive talent. So I'm going to ask you, what are the strengths of this defense going to be, and who are the star players? Dane, why don't you walk us through that first?
As I just said, the strengths of that defensive line and the edge. I think that's really going to be the strength of that defense. And some of the star players already talked about Daly, but in the secondary, you got Zeke Berry. Rod Moore is now healthy. Sounds like he's ready to play. I know he tried to play through some pain in previous years. Sounds like he's truly healthy now. And I talked about Trey Pierce too. I think I see those four as the big stars out there. Do we want to go to starters at this point too, or?
Yeah. We'll cover non-starters after we hear from Junko.
Okay.
Well, I hear Dane talking about the defensive line, and I keep hearing from everybody else too that he's right, that the defensive line is the strength of the team, but that's not what my eyes tell me. My eyes tell me that it's the secondary that's the strength. Dane's right. We got Rod Moore back. Chris Bracey's back there now, and he was a star at Memphis. They got Zeke Berry. They got Snowden, right? They've got Hill, and they've got a lot of other. They got a whole bunch of other young up-and-coming players in that position. I really like the secondary. I think we're going to do very well against the pass this year if we can get a pass rush, and that's going to come down to whether Daly's healthy and that he'll be the beast at Michigan that he was at Utah. Now, again, I think this is a little bit of a step up in competition for him. It's more of a step up for him because there's some really good offensive linemen, offensive tackles in the Big Ten, and he's going to be facing those. And the question is, what happens on that other side? I still have nightmares of watching Cam Brandt bounce off that Ohio State quarterback on that sack, right? Like the guy ran through him like he was nothing, and he's a defensive end supposed to be tackling a quarterback. So I'm not that high at Cam Brandt as a result of that. And that was 2 years ago, and I'm not over it yet. So maybe I'll get over it this season. But I like Dom Nichols to start at the other side. I think he will. Dane mentioned Carter Meadows. There has not been a player at Michigan has come as highly heralded as Carter Meadows since Jabril Peppers. Meadows was a 5-star. He's all-world defensive end. I kind of half expected him to have a pretty significant role this year. We'll see if that happens. But I'm very excited about his play. And then at linebacker, I think that's really where we're going to find out some things. First of all, I think we have zero depth at linebacker. And then I have question marks about all three starters. So this is going to be where we're going to look at Jay Hill and say, how good is this guy, right? I mean, maybe he's got a couple holes there in the middle of the defense. How's he going to handle that? And so I'm going to be very interested, especially in that very first game against Western Michigan, to see what the scheme is and how they use those linebackers. That's going to tell a tale.
Hey, Junko, as far as depth goes, are there any non-starters on the defensive side of the football that could emerge as a difference maker?
Yeah, well, we talked about two of them already. Shamari Earls, I think, is going to play this year at some point. And I keep waiting. I look at him and I say, Shamari Earls, come on, man. You came in as almost a 5-star. Let's go. And then Carter Meadows, we mentioned. And then here's another guy that I keep saying it's now or never for this guy. I said it last year. I'm going to say it again this year. And that's Davad Pelipelli, right? Why is that guy not our starting defensive tackle? He's got the size. What is he, 320? He's been in the program for 2 years.
Huge.
Yeah, let's get that guy going. And then the play of Nate Staling, I think, is going to be huge for this team. Can he come over and be the linebacker at Michigan that he was at North Dakota State or wherever it was that he came from, that up north, meaningless program?
I've been hearing good things about him.
I'm saying very arrogant right now. Yeah, those nobodies up there. But my understanding is that he's been a star in camp. So let's see if that translates to the field. I'm excited about that.
Dane, you got a couple?
I got a couple to add. I had Earls on there. I had Carter Meadows. But I think Owusu Boateng, linebacker, hopefully we're going to see him highly recruited.
You love saying those names, don't you?
I know, it's great.
It sounds almost sexual, doesn't it?
Let's just go with Nathaniel. That's about easy.
Yeah.
But anyway, and the other one is Mason Curtis. I think he'll be in their safety. So I think he'll be a non-starter, but a playmaker.
Cool. All right, we've covered offense, we covered defense. We know what they're going to try to do. So who are the players that are expected to be contributors? Let's talk special teams. All right. So I guess we could call it a real disappointment last year. Kerry Coombs came in late, retained by the staff. Zaveda's graduated. He's out. So will Michigan have the replacements to have quality special teams this season? Dane, what do you think on that?
Well, special teams, I think, is the biggest question mark on this team. Looking at the kickers, I think punter-wise, we're okay with Hagenbeck still. He's going to be a senior. I think he's going to start. But when you look at, who's going to be the kickoff and punt returns, they want to put Marsh back there and the potential for injury, are we going to Jamar Browder or maybe Moa back there on punt returns, kind of a speedy guy, but a backup role. So it'll be interesting to see who actually they put back there for kickoff and punt returns. Kickers, you watch that spring game, and actually Trey Bukowski from Pitt, he actually missed a little 29-yarder. Now, I don't know how he's doing it in practice, but he has real game experience. I mean, he was a Lou Groza Award semifinalist last year. And so I think he'll probably end up starting, but, Stuart Blake, who knows? He didn't make the one in the spring game. He did hit a 73-yarder in practice, I hear. But in practice, Trey Bukowski also hit a 72-yarder. Just practice. So it's hard to tell, but I would say with Trey's game experience, I would expect him to come out at least be the kicker. And then the punter, Hudson Hollenbeck, well, I think he'll start. He's a senior. He's been punting for a while. That's who I see in special teams.
So you think Bukowski will be the long range kicker that Zveda was?
His career long's 47. I know Zavato's a little better than that. But, so, we might have to get him within 40 yards.
Right.
50 and greater may be a challenge.
Yeah.
For both
Junko,
of them.
how you see that?
Well, he's certainly not Zavada. He certainly doesn't have Zavada's range. But my understanding was that he did not miss a field goal attempt under 40 yards last season. So that's encouraging. We know he's accurate. The question is, how close do we have to get him, right? And so I think he will be the field goal kicker. I don't know what he's done in the offseason, to get stronger, increase his range or whatever. But I do agree with Dane. I think the biggest question mark on the team are in the special teams unit. I think Marsh is pretty much a lock to be the punt returner. I keep hearing that Travis Johnson is the fastest guy on the team. And remember when Chesson used to return kicks for Michigan, they put him back there because he was elusive and he was fast. And I can kind of see Johnson play in that same role, and Moa too. I can see those two guys back there returning kicks, and I hope that's what happens. I hope Marsh doesn't return kicks, because if it does, it probably says something about those other guys, right?
Yeah.
And then Cam Brown, I understand, is going to win the punting job. That's what I'm hearing. So we'll find out if that's true or not. But Hudson Hollenbeck, and I've heard that they've both been wildly inconsistent in practice, though. So
great.
Hey, I know that's the stuff you want to hear at a training camp, right? But again, I would Dane. I think special teams is a work in progress.
Well, Cam Brown, he had a 43.8 yard per attempt, and then he had 71 yard long as a true freshman. So not bad. I gave it to Hudson just because he was senior, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. It looks like the special teams will be a work in progress going through until we settle on a few things. All right. We've covered offense. We covered defense, covered special teams. So I get the impression you guys think that this Michigan team is pretty good. But you know what? They play in a league with a lot of pretty good teams, and they have a lot of future NFL talent. The key question is our talent better than their talent? The schedule this season is absolutely brutal. Gosh, it's possible that Michigan could face 6 teams that will be in the CFP hunt on the last week of the season. So let's go through the schedule, put on our crystal ball. And before we do that, let's get an overall prediction, and then we'll go game by game, right? So give us your predictions. Let's go with Junko first. Overall prediction, Junko.
Well, they play 11 games, right?
12. I thought it was 12.
12. I got them at, I can't believe this. I sound like Dane when I say this, but I've got them at 10. I got them at 10-2 in the regular season.
If you sounded like me, it'd be 12-0. Come on.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
That's why I went through
with that schedule. I had to recount again when I went through the games. I was like, how did I get to 10-2? But I got to 10-2.
That's that's kind of why I went with JB first, Dane, because okay. What do you think? Overall win-loss?
12-0, of course. No. This is a brutal schedule. I mean, we're playing, half of our games are against top 25 teams. I mean, luckily, Penn State, Indiana, and Oklahoma are at home. I think that helps a lot. But we got Oregon on the road. We got
Right.
Ohio on the road. That's
a tough
rough.
one.
So I'm actually landing the same spot as Junko. I think 10-2.
Okay.
What do you think, Bobby?
You guys care what I think?
Yeah, Bob, what do you say? I'm very interested to hear what you say.
8-4. And listen, this is just being a looking at it from a practical aspect. I look at, the rankings, and I look at the schedule. I look at home and away, and there's some that, you guys accuse me of being Pollyanna when it comes to the Lions. I'm just a little bit more of a realist when it comes to Michigan. So we'll just see.
But I did see where one expert had the absolute floor at 7-7. So,
wow.
So I'm not 7-7, 7-5.
7-5. Okay.
Yeah. So I could see 8-4. I could see it happen.
Just being a real practical look at it. But you know what? There are surprises that come the entire season. So who's to say? But if you want, we can go through the whole schedule and just like a quick rapid fire why it's a win or why it's a loss. All right. Okay. You ready for that?
Let's go.
Okay. First game, September 5th against the 2025 MAC champion Western Michigan Broncos at Michigan Stadium. Junko, what do you think that's going to be?
I got it as a win. The reason that they should win is they have superior talent. They're playing on the home field. Yep. The reason they can't or wouldn't win would be that Western Michigan is projected to win the MAC, and Michigan's got a brand new staff playing their first game. So,
that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't look at that way.
Yeah.
Dane?
Yeah, I agree. It's a win for the same reason. I mean, Western had a good team last year. They projected to either them. I can't remember who else, Ball State or something, were projected to win the MAC. So it could be an interesting game.
This is how tough the schedule is. They open the season, which, a non-conference game, you figure that's a nice little warm-up, almost a preseason, if you will. But they're playing the MAC champions. So
is this one of your losses, Bob?
No, this is one of my losses. Having said all that, so September 12th, okay, the first real test. Let's go Oklahoma at Michigan. It's a home game. So, Junko, what do you see that happening?
I surprised myself by picking Michigan in this game, and I did it for two reasons. I think overall, Michigan's got more talent than Oklahoma. It's the home field, and I had written down when I was going through a lot of these games, the USC factor, right? Year before last, I went to the USC Michigan game, and that was the loudest Michigan game I had ever been to. The crowd was juiced. They carried Michigan. I don't know if you guys remember Mullins scored late in that game for Michigan to win. He had that gigantic run in the fourth quarter on 3rd down and 8 or something. And that being in that atmosphere, if that atmosphere happens against Oklahoma, I could see Michigan winning that game. The reason they couldn't win it, obviously, is it means they didn't stop Mateer from running. He beat him with his feet last year. If they let him beat him with his feet this year, that's how they could lose.
Okay, Dane?
Well, for all the same reasons, I agree with Junko. I went back and looked at that game, and it seemed like it was just out of control, right? But mainly because Mateer, he extended a number of plays. He scored, a couple touchdowns with his feet. So it seemed like it was out of control. But really, you look at the first quarter, it was 7-0. You look at the second, it was 14-0 at the end of the half. We come out and, score right at the beginning of the third quarter. So, ended up 21-13. We missed a field goal. It could have been 21-16. Of course, they missed a field goal. So, when I went back and looked at it, even though the final score is 24-13, it wasn't like that blowout like it felt like it was. They were in Oklahoma. We struggled on offense big time. I think that struggle will be over this year. That's why I'm picking Michigan over Oklahoma.
Okay.
What do you say, Bobby?
I was really sitting on that one. That was a tough one to go. To me, I agree with you. It could go either way. But I thought, it is Oklahoma. And I thought Michigan will put up a fight, but ultimately lose. So that's how I have their first loss of the season. Week after that, Texas El Paso at Michigan. There's a lot of home games to start things off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Six of
Junko,
them, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Junko, give me that one.
Yeah.
I've got UTEP getting beat in this game pretty handily. I think Michigan's just got superior talent, the home field, and it'll be the third game for the new staff. I feel like things will start gelling at that point. It could be a revenge game after the Oklahoma loss too, if you're right. So
Right.
I think for all the reasons Michigan beats UTEP, the only way that they lose that game is if they get bad weather or a lot of turnover, something like that.
Okay. Dane, how do you see it?
Yeah, it's a win for Michigan. I don't see any way they lose this game. Period.
Yeah, I see that as a get right game, so that's a win, and I see that as like a coming out of the chute and putting them on to bigger and better things and stringing together some wins. So that leads me to Iowa at Michigan, the 26th, September 26th. Junko.
Again, I got Michigan winning that football game. They beat Iowa every time they play them pretty much. So, I mean, it's not a real off-the-wall pick, I don't think. Michigan's got the better talent. I think they got the better team offensively. They got the home field. And on the other sidelines, Hayden Fry, Mr. Conservative, right? But the reason that they can lose is that on the other sideline is Hayden Fry, and he finds a way a lot of times to win ugly games. So Michigan can't let them hang around and be ugly. They need to take care of business early and win that game.
Is Hayden Fry still at Iowa?
He sure is. He could be like Weekend at Bernie's for all we know. Right?
I didn't know he was still at Iowa. Really?
Was Hayden Fry coaching when Bo was coaching?
Yeah. Yeah. He's like the Iranian, he's like the Iranian supreme leader. You don't know really whether he's there or not. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got that as a win, obviously, Dane?
I do. And I think the reason they can win is the Michigan D against the Iowa offense.
Sure.
The reason they may not win is the Michigan offense against the Iowa D. So,
Yeah, no, that's a win for me as well. I love those the old school Big Ten rivalries, but it does seem Michigan wins those every time.
Hey, Hayden Fry, man, he's gone. I think he's like Dad. It's Kirk Ferenz.
That's right.
It is Kirk Ferenz.
Kirk Ferenz, Hayden Fry. I'm going.
You're right.
Yeah, I had to look.
Where's that come from? Even I don't even know.
Junko's stuck in 1982.
Really, I'd be much better looking if I was in 1982. Let me tell you. Hey, you're right, Dane. But it's still Hayden Fry. So it's the same guy.
His type of football.
It's his type of football.
I think is Hayden Fry dead? He's dead.
Oh my God.
It's like reincarnation. It's reincarnation. That's what it is.
I love how respectful Dane is. He's just, I'm just going to check my phone real quick while Junko's talking.
Yeah,
I'm surprised I couldn't remember that game because when they played them in the
I have
Big
no
Ten.
respect for the other Big Ten teams. None. Zero. Yeah.
All right, so we go to Golden Gopher country the next week up in Minnesota. That's still PJ Fleck's team, right?
He's still there.
All right, so give me a win-loss on that one, Junko.
I got them beating Minnesota the same way they always beat Minnesota. It'll be a last score of the game kind of thing, I think. The only reason I would even give me pause is that the game is on the road. It's their first road game of the season. I look at Minnesota like a less talented version of Michigan. They want to do all the same stuff we do. They want the same game plan. They got the same, rhetoric. I just think they have less talent. And I think the only way we lose is if we can't overcome the home field advantage.
Yeah.
Dane.
I agree with the win. Michigan offense should take care of it. And the Michigan defense should take care of the Minnesota offense. I think Minnesota's quarterback isn't all that talented. So he's going to make some mistakes, which I think opens up a Michigan win. Hey, Bobby, Iowa, what'd you say on Iowa?
I had a win. That was a win.
Okay.
So, and I'll give them a win. Little Brown Jug stays at Michigan, and we move on to Penn State.
Bob, why don't you start with Penn State? Because you've got 4 losses. I want to hear where your next losses are coming from.
No, wait a minute. I've got I've got them 3 wins, and with Penn State, it's going to be 4 wins in a row. So,
wow.
Yeah.
You know what his 3 losses are.
I'm feeling them coming here. I feel them coming.
I know which ones.
Rutgers, right?
Yeah, Rutgers.
Definitely a lot.
All right. So no, I've got Penn State. Never liked Penn State. I would never pick them. That's why. So that's a win for me. Let's go in reverse. Dane, what do you say?
Well, luckily it's at Michigan. We don't have to go to any stupid whiteout and crappy Valley, right? So I think Michigan take now Penn State. They've got a new coach. They've got some new players. He brought over Iowa State? I think he brought some players over from. So, it's going to be a heck of a battle. I think it will be a close game, but I'm going to give the win to Michigan.
Okay. Junko.
Yeah, I've also got Michigan winning, mainly because they're at home, and both teams are going to be coming in with new coaching staffs. I think I saw that Penn State had the second most transfers in college football, right? 42. Isn't that what they had? Yeah. So I think that takes a year or two, a lot of times, for that to gel. I don't think they're going to be as good a team this year as they are going to be next year. And I just like us at home. I've been to that stadium so many times when we played Penn State. I've never seen them lose there. I don't think that starts this year.
Okay, cool. All right. So now here's where we may differ. Also, I was sitting on the fence on this one. Indiana at Michigan on October 24th. Give it to me, Junko.
I never thought Indiana would be a rival. I'm still processing that, right? It's like I need some emotional support because I don't understand how they got so good so fast. But again, I'm going to go with the USC factor and the home field advantage. I feel like they've kind of snuck up on us the last 2 years. We didn't really believe the hype. I think we believe the hype now. And I think the team will come out and they'll play well. They've had to replace Mendoza.
Right.
And he was their heart and soul last year. He single-handedly won 2 or 3 games for them. So I don't think the guy that they have coming in this year is going to be anywhere near him. And as a result, it's going to be a tough, physical, run-oriented game for both sides. I think we get them in the big house.
Oof. Dane.
I keep hearing about how Indiana's got all these players and they've got all this talent and everything. But no, even last year when they won the national championship, I think there were 2 or 3 games they won on their last play of the game. One in particular, I remember Penn State.
Yeah.
And he barely got a foot down in that end zone. So while I think they're definitely a very talented team, I think the home factor, the way we win it, is that our defense stops their offense. I think that's the way we win this one. Our running game explodes. So the way we can lose it, of course, if our defense cannot stop and their quarterback somehow has some very good play. I don't know how good he is. We'll see. But I do give the win to Michigan on this one.
All very, very valid reasons why they would win. I got that as a loss. I still think that Indiana has some lightning left in that bottle, and they might catch Michigan a little off guard, even though it is at Michigan. So I was a little wishy-washy on that. Ultimately, I ended up on the loss side. All right, moving on. Halloween. Wow, at Rutgers. I'm going to call it a win. Dane?
Yeah, I call that one a win. I don't see us losing to Rutgers.
Junko.
Well, it is Halloween, and strange things happen on Halloween.
It
right?
is a way
we don't want to get one of those black moons or whatever. But I looked at my notes, and it basically says it's Rutgers. Enough said, right? So the reason that we couldn't win is that God hates us, or the second coming of Noah's Ark is what I had written down. So, I think it would take an act of God. In other words,
Tony Soprano is somehow driving the bus.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Right. I don't know. Jimmy Hoffa emerges out of the end zone. I don't know, something, right?
All right. Now we got a couple rivalries here. We got Michigan State at the Big House, and I've got that as a win. Junko, where are you at on that one?
Oh, yeah, we're going to beat Michigan State. Even if we didn't have home field advantage, we would win that game. I just don't think very much of that team. I think their talent level is as low as I can remember it being in the last 25 years. I mean,
There's a lot of work to do there.
yeah, now I'm one of the guys who actually respects Fitzgerald as a coach. I think he's actually a pretty good football coach, and he does more with less. But they got less talent on this team than he had on his Northwestern teams. So I think the only way we could possibly lose that is if we're looking ahead to Oregon the next week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the only way.
Yeah, Junko basically said it all. I agree wholeheartedly. It's a win for Michigan.
Okay, cool. All right, let's look at they travel west. They're in Oregon on November 14th. Junko.
Yeah, I got that as a loss. So that's a tough venue going to Oregon. It's going to be a big game for both teams. The crowd there is going to be bananas. The question really will be, can we run the ball against that Oregon defense? They have the two best corners in Big Ten. And so it's going to be difficult if we can't run it, then we're going to have to throw it against those corners. I just think that's going to be a tough game against their defense. And they've got Dante Moore, who would have been a top 5 NFL pick had he gone to the draft, and he stayed for one and one reason only. And when that typically happens, those guys are typically successful. So I have it down as a loss.
Dane.
Yeah, interesting with this one. What game happens the week before the
Ohio State?
Michigan State?
Oregon plays Ohio.
Ohio State.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. For Oregon.
So it'll be interesting. We're going to learn a lot about those teams the week before we play Oregon. And then, Ohio is coming up too. So it would be extremely interesting there. The venues could just going to be crazy. Especially if, Junko and I are right and they go in there undefeated. It's really going to be crazy. So, but again, here I gave the edge to Oregon. I just think they do have more talent than us. They've got especially quarterback and more experience at quarterback. So I give the edge to Oregon.
And Bob, before you make your pick, I also want to say that if Michigan wins this game somehow, that they'll be in the CFP. I would say this game.
By that time? Sure.
Yeah. I mean, even if I was right about the other picks, I think if you had to pick one game on the season that you had to win to guarantee yourself a spot in the CFP, I think for Michigan, it's this game. Yeah.
Well, that would be what? That would be their 10th win, right? By that time.
Yep, that would give them 10 wins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. On our scorecard, anyway.
Sure. Yeah, I got it.
Well,
it's a loss
on yours.
It's a loss for me.
Yeah.
For all the same reasons that you guys had. But I'll tell you what, if you guys are right, that is like going into mid-November, without a loss on your card.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, I hope it happens. Following week, November 21st, UCLA comes to the Big House, and I've got that as a win. Dane.
I got it as a win also. I think, again, here, home field advantage. Plus, I think we just have more talent than UCLA. I see that as a win.
Junko.
I go back to the days of Rick Neuheisel, and I think about him coming into Michigan Stadium with all that talk, and we beat the daylights out of those guys, and he's still talking about how much he hates Michigan. I think UCLA is one of those teams that we've beaten before they come to our stadium. It's a team coming from the West Coast to the Midwest. I think they have less talent than us. I think that we may be realizing that we need to make a statement game after Oregon. The only way I think we lose this game is if we, somehow we screw the pooch, so to speak. We turn the ball over, or the defense doesn't show up, something like that. Now, granted, they have Nico Lala, whatever his name is, right, at quarterback, and he's a good quarterback.
Good.
But I'm not sure he's got a lot of talent around him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a home game though too for Michigan. So.
It is.
Yeah, it's tough for West Coast teams to travel east, I think,
and vice versa.
Yeah, and vice versa. All right, here we go. We got the big one, the November 28th matchup, and they do have the start time here, Central Time, 11 a.m. at the what is it? The Horseshoe? Is that what it is?
That's a shoe.
The toilet bowl.
The shoe. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a toilet seat. So what are you thinking on that one, Jug?
Dane, I'm sorry, but I got Michigan losing that game. I just think it's too much to overcome. Going to Columbus on the last day of the season with all that stuff on the line, it could be. It's very possible that the loser of that game would not qualify for the CFP and the winner would. And
that's feasible.
I mean, it's very feasible, right? Because each of us could come in with 2 losses. And that game, you probably don't get into the CFP with 3 losses. So I think that Ohio State's going to pull it out in Columbus.
Yep. Dane?
Yeah, along with the number of other games, I've got it like 50-50, right? It's like you said, Bobby, you're kind of on the fence on the whole thing. But, it's at Ohio. They have Sayan is a damn good quarterback. He's got all the weapons out there in receiver land. Our offense would have to match their offense to win this game and then pull something out at the very end. So, unfortunately, I do have this one as a loss. My head took over on this one rather than my heart. So, I'm gonna call it a loss in a close game.
All right. So to recap, Blue Dane's at 10-2, Junko's at 10-2. I'm at 8-4. Correct? That's
yes,
what we
Mr. Naysayer.
So okay, we all know where we stand now. The only thing left to do is watch. We got to watch what this Michigan team does. We're either going to grow more confident or more pessimistic as the season goes along. But as much as we disagree, I think we can all agree we can't wait for the start of this season. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we're at that point right now where we're going to finish up. We're going to bring things home with some of that Dane's Useless Trivia. Lay it on us.
And now it's time for Dane's interesting but useless trivia. Ooh, I can't wait.
Buddy.
So, guys, I pride myself in bringing our listeners some very interesting but totally useless trivia. And I think today I have sunk to a new low, or maybe it's a new high on uselessness. I'm not sure. Anyway, some trivia on our new coach, Kyle Winningham. His hobbies are water skiing, crossword puzzles, and tennis. His favorite music, since he's about our age, is classic rock. No surprise there.
Right.
Favorite movies, Back to the Future, Princess Bride, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, kind of around our era too. And TV preferences, no surprise here, he prefers sports. But the real trivia question I have for you is, there are a couple of popular 90s shows that he has never watched. What are those 2 shows that he has never watched? Popular 90s shows.
Junko, you want to go first? I got a couple that came into my mind.
You're the trivia. I have no idea even what the shows were in the 1990s.
Too far back for you.
Yeah, too far back. I can't distinguish between 70s, 80s,
Think of
90s.
sitcoms.
Okay.
Don't give me any clues.
I'm
sorry.
What's the one with Ritter? What was that one? That was
Three's Company?
Three's Company, that one. Yeah. Maybe.
I think that was earlier in the 90s.
Yeah.
Maybe you're thinking of 8 is enough, or what was that one? 8 Simple Rules.
8 is enough with
8 Simple Rules.
8 Simple Rules. Hey, that's a good call, Dane.
Yeah. I give up. I have no clue. Yeah.
All right. So first of all, let's make a confession. I've never seen The Princess Bride. Have you guys? No, I know. I understand it's a fantastic movie, but just never been on my radar. So the 2 sitcoms, I'm sure one of them Seinfeld and the other one's Friends. Both of them?
Good job. Yeah. Those are the 2 you've never seen.
I knew you would get that. I knew you would. Yeah.
Well, you know what? My knowledge is somewhere around. Thank you. Go Tigers.
What's going on with them, man?
Sinking fast, my friend. But the problems with the Tigers were the problems that we had at the beginning of the season. Bullpen can't hold a lead.
Yeah.
They've just given too much. Their record would be they'd probably be in first place if they had a decent bullpen.
Well, they got a 3-game series against KC, so maybe they can pull a few out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, KC ended up, I think, well, they split that series. And then they lost the series against Baltimore. But anyway, we're talking Wolverines, all right? So that's it for today, folks. We'll be back for a preview of the Western Michigan game sometime early in September, so stay tuned for that. Now, if you like the podcast, smack that like button on whatever site you're listening to. For the best viewing experience, be sure to check us out on YouTube. Just put in Lowdown and Motown Sports in the search bar and subscribe, so you get notified when we release new episodes. Did I mention that it's important for you to subscribe? This podcast is part of Junko Bodie Productions and an exclusive production of the Lowdown on Motown Sports Network. Thank you again so much for listening. We'll see you all on the next edition of the Lowdown on Motown Sports.